remarks, I am the MP for St Andrews as the MP for North East Fife, so I thought it quite important that I be here today. And St Andrews as a town has been historically the ecclesiastical capital of Scotland until the Reformation, but it wasn't always a safe harbour for religious leaders. Cardinal Beaton, the last Scottish cardinal prior to Reformation, was murdered by Fife lairds, angered by the execution of Protestant preacher George Wishart, and was stabbed and his body hung from the ramparts of, or the window of, St Andrews Castle. In the last Parliament, the House magazine invited MPs to write about something of particular interest in their constituency. And I don't know what it says about me, Madam Deputy Speaker, but I chose to write about the murder of Archbishop Sharp, who was murdered by Covenanters outside St Andrews as he made his way there from Ceres. And indeed, the Kate Kennedy parade and celebration, part of the University of St Andrews, the Kate Kennedy Society, celebrates its centenary next year in the town. And as part of that, the centrepiece is a reenactment of that murder. But I agree entirely with the Honourable Member. Definitely come and see it, it's great. I liked the Honourable Member's comments on Charles I. I do take pleasure when I'm in here doing a tour to point out that's where the Fifer was sentenced to death. But as a member of the History of Parliament Trust, I'm very clear that we shouldn't refer to the English Civil War. It's the War of the Three Kingdoms, because that whole conflict started in Scotland with the First Bishops' War. I want to pay tribute to some of the groups and organisations that work in St Andrews, the Hub, the Community Council, who recently hosted the Hoolie that marked St Andrews Day in the town, the University. Obviously, I was here not that long ago marking the passing of my predecessor, but one, the Right Honourable Lord Campbell of Pittenweem, Ning Campbell, who was the Chancellor of the University. And I note the debate that's taking place in Westminster Hall, and I thank the member for Glasgow North, who is not here, but he's in the other place because he is marking the fair trade and its 20 years anniversary of the same group in St Andrews as well. The final bit I want to mention, Madam Deputy Speaker, is the St Andrews Harbour Trust. Again, not a normal trust because it was gifted to the town by James IV. But one of the challenges we've had post-Storm Babette is that harbour needs essential funding to maintain the whole coastline, and it's something that the Trust is struggling to do. And I have written to the Secretary of State for Scotland looking for that support because of how critical that infrastructure is. But one of the other things I get to be as the MP for St Andrews is on the board of the Links Trust. My father does not share my politics, but he is a keen golfer, and he's therefore very happy about that. But we do and are known for golf, and the Open returns to St Andrews in 2027. And I wanted to take this opportunity today to highlight a recent report by the Links Trust that demonstrates that St Andrews and the courses there deliver £300 million of economic impact to Scotland's economy. Visitors and their families support nearly 1,700 full-time jobs in St Andrews and over 4,000 across Scotland, and that for every pound that passes through the tills of the St Andrews links, an additional £3.43 is generated for other businesses in St Andrews. And more than 100,000 visitors have made St Andrews Links their destination in 2024, with over 91% coming from outside Scotland. So it is absolutely vital, St Andrews, to the wider Scottish economy, as well as the wider North East Fife economy too. I was speaking just earlier this week to the owner of the hotel in my constituency out with St Andrews, who pointed out how essential St Andrews is to their trade, but also how they are hampered by their rural location, poor footpaths between communities and poor local transport links too. And with the decision following the Stag in relation to a station in St Andrews being turned down, it's very important that the recommendation other transport links do happen and take place so that we can connect tourists, but also the local workers who support the industries that I've mentioned and can't actually afford to live in St Andrews. So that is me. I've tried to be and aspire to the Honourable Member for Dunfermline and Dollar's lofty opening. I think he really did try to set the scene. But there is one thing that I did want to mention in relation to concerns, and something that I want to highlight. And I want to thank, as a former police officer, my former colleague Martin Gallagher and the work of the Jobs Forgotten for a particular issue in relation to the McCloud Judgement, Madam Deputy Speaker. And in the McCloud Judgement in 2018 and the changes to public sector pensions has been challenging for all governments, but it does seem that the Scottish Government has been finding that the most challenging, with numerous deadlines missed, despite knowing since 2022, in fact arguably 2018, because that's when the judgment happened, that work to ensure remediation for those people affected by the McCloud Judgement in relation to their public sector pensions was mitigated. I'm concerned to hear reports where it appears that statements, when requested for retirement, are not being provided, simply because an individual hasn't yet to submit their intention to retire. Why would you make a decision on whether to retire or not if you don't have the financial information that you need to be able to do it? And it makes me wonder and be concerned about what the overall liabilities are, particularly given the 8% increase in interest rates per year in relation to those delayed decisions which are paid for by the UK taxpayer. It may be something that the Chair of the Scottish Affairs Committee is interested in, because it was just recently, in fact on the 2nd of December, that the Chief Executive of the Scottish Public Pensions Authority gave evidence in the Scottish Parliament to the Public Finance and Public Finance Committee, where he apologised but failed to provide information or confidence in the system and the fact that whether indeed it can be totally resolved by 2027. I've got an FOI here, Madam Deputy Speaker, that suggests that less than 3% of individuals who retired on ill health have had their statement in relation to the McCloud Judgement, and that is very concerning to me. And I hope the Minister will agree with me that this is a situation the Scottish Government should not have got itself into. And for public sector workers such as firefighters and police officers, some of whom, as I mentioned, retired on ill health grounds directly related to their service, to be left in this limbo is unacceptable. Particularly, there are now concerns that back payments might need to be made, and indeed they might lose money as a result. Madam Deputy Speaker, it is really important that we have the opportunity to debate not just St Andrew's Day, our patron saint, and Scottish affairs in this place, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to have done so.